All right, good. Well, welcome to Coach Jacksonville. And we'll get the meeting started a little bit early and have some fun with it. And this is going to be a fun participative type of program because we're going to talk about Ted Lasso. I'll talk about the 5 lessons I learned out of Ted Lasso, and then I want to hear the lessons that you've seen. How many of you, by the way, have seen Ted Lasso? 1, 2, and
I've only seen part of the first episode because we don't have Apple Plus. So
right.
Simon is to go.
everybody's always told me to watch it because they said I'm a lot like him. So I'm like, well,
Yeah.
well, yeah. So I don't know. Let me say, yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. So we'll try to give you as much of an update on it as possible, so you'll know a little bit about it. And then we'll see how does Ted Lasso, which is obviously fiction, how do we make it apply in the real world to our coaching and for our own personal lives? And Bob got this for me a while back.
I was picking up a prescription and there it was. You had just mentioned it, like.
Right.
before.
Yeah. Brilliant. So
There's a lot in there.
there is, and it's all about not only Ted Lasso,
All the characters.
and all the different characters. Here's Beard, for instance, Roy, Nate the Great, Ted Lasso, and there's several women who are in it. Rebecca, who's the owner of the franchise of the Richmond Hounds.
Greyhounds.
Greyhounds, you're right. Thank you very much. So a lot of fun. So we'll be talking about that. What I'd like to do first of all is have self-introductions. So and I think, have fun with this self-introduction. And I would think it'd be good to not only say who you are and what you're working on, but maybe an example of a particular case that you just think is thrilling you. And Bob, I'm gonna start with you since I'm looking at you.
Okay, all right. Again, I introduced myself to the 2 new people in my life, but my name is Bob Zinzer. My company is Get in the Game Southeast and formed over 13 and a half years ago. Just because I was tired of getting severed in the corporate world for budgetary constraints, change in direction, all kinds of things. And I really have a lot of fun with what I do. I've worked with all kinds of different clients, anywhere from a pest control company to a high-end software development company. I'm currently working on a project to relaunch a company that's been in business for 20 years. An older gentleman that's got a proprietary product, but I built and just still making some changes to it, a full-blown business plan. So I have that ability to walk through and build a business plan. He's going to give me a title of Vice President of Sales and Marketing. I will hire a sales group, which I've done in many other instances. I have written a marketing plan. It's just an outline at this point, but all the different ways that we're going to market the company. And it's pretty exciting. It's something I didn't see coming, and sure glad to have it. I'm spending a lot of time on it and enjoying that. So, but again, I do sales coaching with all types of different companies, but also get myself involved in all kinds of other things which are asked of me, as long as I'm able to do it. I won't take on something that I'm not capable of doing, and I've turned some things down. So
That's
What-
fascinating. Go ahead.
What kind of business, can you tell us what kind of business or product it is?
it's actually a polymers company.
Okay.
It's got a very unique product in the market. One of a kind. This gentleman that owns the business is an engineer from all different backgrounds, but they've got markets. They've done some business here in Jacksonville already, as far as floating docks. But there's also future applications for this product, and it's got a lot of potential. Right now, we're just in the we actually have a meeting on Wednesday for some initial investors. So we're reaching out to an investment group to invest in the company.
Are you doing that too? Yeah.
Coordinating that to the tune of about $5 million.
Mhm.
I did that in a previous business relationship that I had several years ago with a partner of mine. So I have a little bit of background in that, but it's interesting. But the business plan is done, and that's what they're looking for, and the financials. So I coordinated and put that all together over the last month.
Yeah.
Been working on that.
Very exciting because I think one of the things that shows is that there's, as a coach, there's different ways of getting compensated and different ways of engaging clients.
Yeah,
Will you be a 1099, a W-2? Are they gonna
I'll be a contractor.
contractor? Okay. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the CEO of the company is also a contractor.
Okay. So they're not going to be requiring you certain hours or things like that. So you can have complete freedom. Beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yep. There will be employees, the salespeople will be employees, there will be there's manufacturing involved. So there will be people that will be charged with manufacturing here in
Yeah.
Jacksonville.
Neat.
It's a big project. So,
Yeah. When I first became a coach back in 1993, and then it was 1994, there was a guy who repaired scopes and surgical instruments, and he had several techs and he had a bookkeeper. So he wanted me to come in and do a lot of the business concepts as far as, and also teach the sales guy how to sell. And so it turned out to be 11-month project. And I was a 1099 at that point. In other words, he was just paying me not as employee, but as a contractor. But more and more he started saying, okay, Doug, how come you're not here at 8:30 like everybody else? You know, I started becoming more and more of an employee, and it became, we got a business card saying vice president.
I'm getting them tomorrow.
Yeah, the bank wanted that. Because they wanted me to be more of a permanent, so they could give the loan to the guy. They said, well, we want you to be there because the guy's technically amazing, but not a real businessman. So so it was fascinating what you're getting into.
We've got conferences coming up, which are in our market segments in Tampa and Miami coming up. Actually, October is the first one in Tampa, so I'll be going to that. But I've had that situation before with a contract where I had an office in the person's office building, and but I was able to come and go as I pleased, and I had several other clients during that time.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying and feel like you're part of the family.
Right, yeah. Well, I'd love to get some updates as time goes on on how this is working. So please keep us advised.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
I think it's a fascinating thing for us as coaches, for ourselves and for our clients too, because sometimes we're coaching people and then they say, oh, gee, I don't know if I should go out on my own or not. Well, it almost doesn't matter. You go find the client first.
Yep.
Or an employer, however you want to do it, and then you figure out how you're going to compensate it. That's just a matter of where the dollars flow from and how they flow to you. So well done. Heidi, what's going on in your world?
Okay, so I got a story for you today. It's a history story. So I'm going to read this to get all the dates and the people right, because I'm a coach, not a historian. Okay. So this is the story of the Golden Buddha.
The Golden Buddha. Buddha. Okay.
So in Bangkok, there's a golden statue of the Buddha that stands 9 feet 8 inches tall. It weighs 5.5 tons and it's worth approximately 250 million, and it's gold. The statue was thought to be built in 1403 and was revered by Buddhists for many hundreds of years. But in 1757, the Burmese army was invading Thailand, and they knew they were going to get defeated. So the Buddhist monks started covering this gold Buddha with clay. And so even though all of the monks were murdered and killed. This statue was not captured because they thought it was just a meaningless clay statue. So in 1957, the entire monastery in Thailand was being relocated by a group of monks, and one of them noticed that there was a crack in it. And underneath that crack shined brightly this gold. And so as they began to chip away at the Buddha, they realized that underneath was all of this gold.
Hmm.
So in each of us is a golden Buddha. When we were born, we were this amazing, valuable asset. Our parents loved us just for being who we were, being cute and adorable, and we had this beautiful essence about us. But then things started happening in our lives, and we felt the need to protect that beautiful essence. And so we started layering clay on ourselves. Those are our limiting beliefs. And not only were we layering clay on ourselves, but our parents and our teachers and the other people around us helped layer that clay until it became so thick that you've forgotten how valuable you really are. So what I do with my coaching is I've got a 15-minute habit that you can practice every day. And you start to chip away at that clay and really see how valuable and important you are. You get to see what it is inside of you that's really going to make the difference in the world and make you feel that satisfaction that you've been looking for. It's probably not money or the house or any of that stuff, or even some level of success. Once you're in line with all of your values and you love yourself, that's when you're able to really give that value to everybody else in the world.
What a beautiful story. Love that.
What was that called? The Golden Buddha?
Yep.
And then what, kind of, what do you, when you would say I do what kind of coaching, what would you?
So I guess I'm a productivity coach, for those people that are like, yep, I know what I should be doing, but I'm not doing any of it. So it could be, I'm not working out, I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not following through with my to-do list at work every day. And if for that matter, I'm not doing it, so I can't get anybody else that I'm trying to lead to do anything. So I'm stuck.
You get people unstuck
I get you unstuck and get you moving.
and chip away at the clay, which are the limiting beliefs on each of our golden Buddhas.
Mhm.
I love it. That's very
Yeah, that's a
powerful.
great story.
Okay, Alana.
Yes, I am Alana. I'm Doug's marketing manager. So I'm not so much of a coach.
You are.
By association.
Yeah, by proxy. So yeah, so I don't think what's the question?
So what are you working on this? What are you working on this, really?
Oh, okay. I see. The reason is I started to think of something and I was like, doesn't really count as coaching, but so I have a food blog. And I actually recently wrote about like the top 5 sandwich places in town, and these
What?
sandwiches
What's your
were
food
on
blog? I'm new here.
reviewjacks.com. And then actually I am disappointed that Jeff Glosser is not here today. He's one of the he's a common attendee and a coach, and he connected me with a new sub franchise owner. Well, or he just owns one of them, but it's John Smith Subs, and I got to do an interview and get to know him. And so I'm working on that article, and it's about, even though it's about food, it's about people and stories.
Yeah.
So
They're
that's
right
what
by
I
a friend of ours, and they weren't open when we rode that way
yeah.
last time, but I know he's since opened. And the subs look great.
Oh, yeah. There's Phillies, Cubans, hot
Mm.
subs, Reubens, and all the cold deli classics. So, yeah.
Are
that's
you
it.
on the Jack's, the Speak with Jack's restaurant?
Jacksonville restaurant reviews or
No, it's the Scoop. It has a scoop in the Jacksonville Scoop, but it's all about restaurants, people coming in from out of town or not familiar with the area. you know, where's a good place to go, not looking, you know, for a white tablecloth, but something on the water.
Yeah, you have to send me the information, because I don't
Yeah,
think I.
because she's always calling.
Something like Whitey's.
I follow, there's a guy, Nate Does Food, who's all over the food scene, and he hosts like secret dinners, like people buy tickets all the time, they sell out at a restaurant for a table, they don't know where they're going, and they try something new.
Jeffrey Spear, you follow him?
Mm-mm.
He's a friend of mine
Okay,
that I've known for a while. He has written cookbooks and
okay, cool.
travels all over the world with, and it's all food related. He does work in that field, so.
Yeah, I need that information too. I'm on Yelp though, I'm pretty active with the Yelp community.
Okay, I'll
Yelp,
send that
Yelp
to you.
elite technically. All right, okay. Let me get this. It might be if I think it facing the right way. It's not exactly- There's nobody there, so it's of course of heaven. It's all right.
Oh, there you go. It's nice.
Okay, it's a moving target.
It's got its own
Yeah.
mind.
Okay.
All right, here.
There you go.
Product.
Well, my name is Shannon Zipoy. My company is called Straightforward Solutions. I too do a little bit of productivity, time management systems and processes. Also developing either a course or maybe some coaching to go with that on burnout for women. Because I've experienced that myself a couple of times. I'm newer to Jacksonville. We've been here about 6 years, but I really just kind of started thinking about and getting back into like a coaching like field about 1.5 years ago. So I had a professional organizing business prior to moving here and had been a high school teacher too. So kind of a jack of all trades. It fell into systems, process building, operations when we moved here for a job that I just thought I was going to answer phones till I found something better. It was in roofing, and then a hurricane hit 10 days later, and the company just took off and went from like being 6 months old to doing like $5 million at, you know, the next year. So somebody had to start developing how we were going to do things, and that fell on me. So that's how I kind of decided that I could take those skills that I didn't even know that I had when I started that job and develop them into a coaching program. So kind of the opposite of what you have going on, Bob, is once I left the roofing company, 2 of the guys that worked for me left to start a hurricane shutter business. They first started calling me just to pick my brain when they were getting started. Then it was like, we don't know how to do permits. I had a non-compete, so I couldn't technically work for them. And they're like, we'll give you cash, just come over and we need 15 permits pulled. Can you do that for us? Sure, like that kind of thing. And then it was like, we want you to come more full time. And luckily, since I had the non-compete, it forced me to start my own thing. But the difference with you is I am now trying to pull back and establish that I don't technically work for you. I'm not going to come to your office every day. You know, I'll text everybody when I'm available. If you need questions, call me, email me, but like trying to train them is that I'm not sitting at my computer from 7 to 5 o'clock waiting for them to need something from me.
Right.
So,
It's important to set that expectation.
yeah.
And still do those types of things. You're very much involved, but you just let them know, you know, I'm gonna get the job done. I'm gonna do what
Right.
you need me to do. And, you know, you will be the majority of my focus, but I got other things going.
Yes, because when I first started with them, I did actually need to be there. Like
Mhm.
stuff was getting delivered and nobody knew it because nobody was telling anyone. So I had to like kind of go back again and develop processes and systems to be like, okay, this is how we are going to do this, but I'm not doing it, you're doing it. You know, so then they got so used to me being there that I had to kind of learn to pull away again because I don't need to be there daily anymore. It's like working.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yes.
Mhm.
I don't want to have to submit, you know, time off for vacation.
Right.
Day off. No.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
It's not gonna be available.
It's working well. It's just sometimes I have to remind them that,
Oh, very
you
good.
know,
That's exciting.
it is exciting. So now I'm hoping I'm getting in a better position to start taking on other clients because it was kind of hard to do that when you're sitting in a warehouse where there's saws going off and you're trying to tell everyone, don't disturb me for an hour. They like keep walking past your desk on the Zoom. You're like, sorry.
Are there any particular industries that are the sweet spot for you or companies? or-
You know, when I first met Doug, we kind of talked about that. So, you know, I've got decent amount of experience now in like construction field,
Okay,
not only from the work that I've done, but also my family has been in, my dad worked for a utility, my brother is a superintendent at a construction company, my grandpa owned a plumbing company, so I've just been around it and kind of naturally understand how those things work from life experience. I was also a high school teacher, so education. I know that there's a lot of private schools, charter schools, things like that, if they needed some kind of help with, their staff or teaching or developing, just a school has systems and processes, people just don't
Mhm.
realize it, but when it's a public school, that's just how we do things. I've also done a ton of retail and like, restaurant
good.
experience, because as a teacher, you've never had enough money, so you always had a second
Sure.
job. I don't love these things. I was a sales director in Mary Kay. I don't try and tell people that it's the solution for them, because I do think that they take advantage of people, but if somebody is already in it, I'm not going to change their mind. And if they're looking for ways to be more successful or put some processes in place, it will work. I just don't encourage people to join them, but if they're already in it and they want to make a success out of it, because some
I
people
was in
do.
it too. I agree completely with you.
Yeah,
It's a good way to learn about business
It
and
is.
try it out for yourself.
yeah,
And
there
then
are
have
those-
the positive, I believe in you.
yes. So there are definitely some
Yeah.
pluses to it, but also I do think they look for
retail
people that are
there's a
looking
lot
for
of-
any solution to get out of something else they're not happy about.
Retail should be a good spot.
Yeah.
Because they could use a lot of help. I mean, anymore these days, it's just pitiful to deal in the retail space. I mean, nobody gives a crap, nobody shows up, they just, you're an inconvenience.
And I think too, like, just from all my retail experience has been like corporate retail. So, but if you're a small business, you don't realize that you have to set up the processes.
Yeah.
A
experience
manual
that
is
you're
not
providing.
handed to you from corporate headquarters telling you this is how we do
Yeah,
these things.
customer experience is lacking. But, and I did a lot of research for a company that I work with in customer experience. I did a 1 hour presentation to all the new employees that came in to say, this is your job. You are providing a customer experience. Yes, you're paying claims. But when you're on that phone and you're dealing with the customer, you're going to use their name, you're going to show empathy, you're gonna, all this stuff, because it was on the phone, which was even harder, but retail, I've written a lot about that experience, and it's beautiful, especially in restaurants these days. I don't know how many, that scoop with Jacksonville, I don't know how many posts I've seen where people say, I made a reservation. I showed up on time, I was seated, it was 45 minutes before somebody came to me and said, can I get you something? The food didn't come out for another hour. I would have been gone. Sorry, I don't know why you stayed that long. I mean, I've been known to get up and walk out 10 minutes if I'm not paid attention to. But it's just crazy what's going on there. Anyway, well, good, awesome. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
So true, though. It's awesome what you did. A lot of
Thank you.
opportunities in that. What am I saying again? My name is Steve C. I'm brand new. New with you, right? I run my own coaching practice called Steve C. Leadership Coaching, original, right? Leadership Coaching Incorporated. And I've been doing that ever since, well, I would say 9 years, but I was a sole proprietor until I realized I had a lot of taxes taken out. And then I quickly got smart and shifted to an S corporate in California because there was paying taxes. I don't know, in Florida, but it was like, there was some paying 10,000 a year or 800 a year.
Yeah.
So I switched to an S corp real fast, right? So we just moved here a year ago and from Northern California, Sacramento area. And so it's been a nice shift, interesting shift for me because everything was in person before COVID for me. 2020, everything was in person. I didn't have a single virtual client. And so everything shifted almost overnight, right?
Yeah,
So,
sure did.
sound like all you guys too. Well, the benefit of that is one, it allowed me to move to Florida, still have a lot of California clients.
Sure. Yeah.
Hard part is I forgot that most of how I built my practice was in person. Then I thought, crap, I have to reinvent the wheel. So I'm kind of going through this reinvention with my branding and what I do. And it's a little, I love what you said, it's perfect, right? It's like chipping through the clay.
Yeah.
Right? Or customer service. Like, so what I do, people ask me what I do as a trusted advisor. I go, I don't fell on my lap because I'll work with companies or individuals and I'll see what's going on in their culture. And I'll be like, how long you guys been doing like that? Like what? Like this, the unsaid. things that people don't notice. I just
Didn't
picked up
even
on.
realize.
So I mean, I got my master's in marriage family therapy and I love relationships in business though, not necessarily couples. I'll do couples coaching. Like, I'm not counselor at all. So go somewhere else. I got licensed friends, not me. But I love headaches in companies that deal with relationships, communication, conflict, all that's engagement. That's the kind of stuff that I've been doing more. You mentioned customer service. Florida Department of Health hired me to do some work with customer service because they're like, hey, how do we make it interesting and fun? And because nobody really wants to come to training. And I go, yeah, tell me how it's done already right now. Right. And so it's interesting to see like it's all dry and it's not enjoyable. And then there's not really spending time engaging with their staff either. There's a lot of, you see that from the latest Gallup study that they're showing the number one reason globally of while what employees want is engagement and culture. And I thought, I have a friend that says culture is kind of what you carry with you in your pocket, you know, and how you act and how you treat each other. Like you mentioned, Bob, how you welcome and smile. And I go, yeah. So it's kind of funny. I do that with organizations. I don't know how I somehow I get paid for that, but because it is lacking, right? And I think like what you said, added to the clay part, it's like that chipping away. Or Michelangelo, you know, when he's making statue David, that's another example. It's like chipping away, chip away until David is what's left, right? But it's kind of like that with people and organizations. That's kind of similar to what I do. So there might be some things that have to do with like, what are you going to get done this week? Sure. But the biggest part of who you being this week. And what's your purpose in life? Like what's the biggest underneath? Because a lot of people I coach are already high performers. They don't need more performance on top of it. A lot of times it's fulfillment, taking a break, going for a walk. Right. It was funny though. Who did Warrior Project? I didn't really know much about them. They reached out to me. They had a recruiter from LinkedIn. And I was like, well, I'm not looking to work as an employee. I don't ever want to ever again. Or no. But then he's like, I looked at the job description. I go, well, there's a lot of good stuff here. It was a talent development specialist. And I go, this is pretty cool. Kind of lines up with a lot of the industrial organization psychology work, which I really enjoy. Probably what I do sometimes is that. But I entertained an interview. And then they had me come back last week for another interview. I don't know where it is yet, but as I prepared, talk about something interesting, like what you were saying, is they asked me what instructional model I use. I thought, instructional model. So yeah, what method? I go, shoot, I don't know. I'm eclectic. I kind of just pull everything together somehow in my own way. But just what model to use? I go, I kind of take from there, John Maxwell, a little bit of lean consulting, a little bit of this. And it's like, almost I could see her head spinning, right? The manager, she's looking at me, but then they had me come back and do a presentation on, say, as if somebody was having a hard time with their team, they can't delegate well. So the purpose was delegation. And so I was going to start to wow them by the model that they use. And I go, I'm going to wow them by researching this model and putting it in there. And I'm going to knock it out of the ballpark to my wife, because my wife goes, why are you going to do that? And I go, I don't know. Should I just do my own thing as if I was going to see a client today? And not give a crap about the rest of it. And that's what I did last week. I just showed up and said, this is what I would do as if a client came to me today. So whatever model you have, I can learn that. That's fine.
And they all,
This-
talent
right.
development, they all have their.
That's
structured
it.
Models.
That's it. So I said, if anything, it's a win-win, because they like it. We have maybe another conversation. If they don't, doesn't matter. I have my next PowerPoint built and my next talk on the art of delegation. So I thought, cool. So that's kind of what happened this last week. You know, it's like I just went in, thanks to my wife just encouraging me to say, just do you, like, go in there the way you naturally would. I go, okay. And I did, right? And so it was a lot of fun just creating that essence, because they wanted to know, like, what would you do to help them delegate tasks? And I go, well, since they said they have trouble with all their staff, I think I'd get back to why are they even in this job? I'd probably get them out of the office, go for a walk. Because I do that with a lot of clients in California. I'd take them up to the mountains, I'd hike, and we'd go backpacking. I get a lot of people outside of the office is what I tend to do, so that we can elevate our thinking, and then we come back in. But I was just had fun with that this last week, and it's the first time I've really been kind of had like the recruiter coming after me for that. And I thought, well, I don't want to be an employee, but I'm gonna have some fun with this.
And you're gonna learn some things from it too. So it's
Absolutely.
not wasted time.
Yeah.
It's gonna benefit your.
Yeah.
function.
So it's been great, and I met Doug at the last, what was the trustee chamber
Yeah,
meeting
sure.
a couple weeks ago, and
That's
you
right.
said, come to this
Yeah,
event. So I
Perfect.
said, here I am. And so, yeah.
exciting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how you can take back backpack with some of your clients in the mountains of Florida too.
Probably the beaches.
Yeah.
We're gonna go on this nice strip here.
Go through-
Take
go
off
through
your
the
shoes.
swamp.
Put your.
Try not
roll
to
your-
get eaten by an
There you go. That'd be fun, actually.
That's what I was doing this weekend.
Uh-huh.
And Ocala.
We're going to the swamp.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's why my arm looks like this. I did not get beaten. I was doing archery.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. You are dangerous.
But you're right, it's a different terrain for sure, right?
Yeah, I mean, you just have to be a little more creative, you know, the independent life
Flat trails.
building, is a, or what is now called, I think, was Wells Fargo, what do we call the independent life building?
Got me.
Or golf life building.
Changing it, yeah.
Yeah, so those are the mountains that we have, so you take people walking up those stairways.
Yeah.
If you can nowadays. Yeah, exciting to have you here, exciting to have all of you here. Let me just say a little bit who I am. I'm Doug Wilder, Wilder Business Success. I've been a coach now, this is my 30th year, and started in 1993, December of 93. 94, early 94 is when I started calling it a coach, calling myself a coach. And it's been a terrific, exciting, thrilling life for me. Enjoyed it, would do it over again, still doing it, plan to do it for another 30 years. Oh boy.
Why?
Do the math. And so yeah, it's fun, and it's fun meeting people like you all who have various backgrounds and then exploding, doing the things your way. And so, and that's basically what I do with my clients, help them discover what is their way, what is their golden Buddha. Particularly right now, I'm working with a lot of the children of CEOs, and so working with one right now, it's just a 35-year-old who's trying to do what her father's wants her to do, and it's hard because, you know, that's not what she's been used to. And treat her father in a respectful way is difficult for her, so she's learning how to do that. So a lot of mind shifts going on, and that's what I love. I love de-stress tools that I give to my clients, Wilder de-stress tools, and Alana is helping me write the book on Wilder de-stress tools. I'm in the middle of reading your book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Are you enjoying it? Or-
I am enjoying it, and it's a very comprehensive. I haven't applied it all yet, and but it's inspiring me to think, okay, how can I inspire Alana to get the book written? That's how I delegated that. I've been working on it for a couple of years now. I was supposed to have it done 2 years ago. But
That's all right.
it didn't happen, and the next year. it
Things
didn't
don't
happen.
happen overnight.
So then I told Alana, okay.
I mean, I wasn't there 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Ah,
that's right.
That's right.
That's right. And now she's-
Project.
It's her job is to make sure that he gets done this year. And we're coming up with a lot of stuff on it, and it's very exciting, very exciting. We're now taking a lot of the stories that we have over 30 years and applying them into the book. So yeah. Sorry, it's here means.
That's okay. That's
okay. Let's see, something, so that's what's thrilling in my world is working with people who don't quite fit in and getting them to fit. And most of them want to fit. 78% of them, I find, actually 80, in my statistics are about 89% want to change. 11% don't want to change. You're happy with what they're doing, dysfunctional or whatever it is, and that's okay. But then another 11% change, but then they end up leaving the company. But 78% change and stay with the company, and I think, and that's the thrilling part to see.
That's success.
Yeah, it's so much fun. So I think what we're gonna do today is talk about one extra method, another model. And this model is gonna be the Ted Lasso model. I think we're gonna get some phone, it's a photo of all this. Do you want me to
Yeah, do you want to see it
grab a photographer? Let me get it.
Zach or Christy? It's like you've been here before, you know the deal, there's a picture.
Would imagine if you down here. Thinking about
I thought you were offering me goodies.
Well, there is another one, that's your fee for.
All right, everyone.
Well,
Yeah.
Perfect. Too, just in case somebody.
Blink.
that's-
Wait, that's my notes.
Hey,
If you're on TV as well.
oh, nice.
Maybe I should real quick check, make sure that I didn't, Leila didn't message me
Okay,
really quick.
okay, thanks, Christy. All right, great. Yeah, getting everybody online. We used to, for a while, we were doing all these online for a brief time. And then we started doing the hybrid. And this is the last bastion of hybrid that we're really doing. I mean, we either do it online or we do it in person. So just making sure people are,
Yeah, it's hard.
yeah,
Yeah,
It's hard to juggle that.
and when it's virtual.
They get left out.
Like, it's in the way. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, there's something else to do.
yeah, right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Get the
I think
shaft.
it's nice to have the option because,
Uh-huh,
you know, like if you only had 2 hours in your day, but you didn't have enough driving time to get like
right,
it is nice sometimes when
It
you're like,
is.
oh, I can just hop on really.
that's right.
That was my favorite part about everything going to Zoom. I was like, I'm saving so much time not driving.
I know.
Fill your gas tank up.
No word.
No word, okay, so we'll just assume that she's not gonna come on. Great. First of all, any announcements of any programs that are coming up that we should be aware of? No? Okay. No? All
That's a
right,
first.
yeah, we,
I know, I'm giving up on events and stuff now. I don't have a whole new strategy.
oh, good.
It involves me just kind of sitting back and letting somebody else do stuff. So.
Love it, I love it, great idea.
So did you find the events weren't working or you just? Don't
Yeah,
wanna
pretty
do
much
it anymore?
events weren't working because like I wasn't doing the numbers, like I wasn't inviting enough people to get enough people to come to the event, like all
Right.
that's super time consuming. So that's ultimately where I'm stuck in my coaching. I'm not doing the numbers to get the amount of clients that I need.
Yep.
So I'm fixing
Oh, good, good.
it.
Well, I think one of the things to just keep in mind is that in coaching is a sales game. And if you're not doing the sales, then you're not gonna be doing the coaching, so. Unless, unless you can figure out some way of, either, having a one client that's gonna fill up so much time, or, and every time that I have a dearth, an emptiness in my, either in my pocketbook or in my, or in my number of clients I have, I always just take it on me and say, okay, just need to raise my activity level, get out there and start meeting more and more people, right?
Yeah.
And so,
You got that down.
yeah.
You make me tired of seeing all the events that you go to, and I'm not even there.
I know, well, and then the other thing is having, so I just take, every time I go out, allow me to take a picture. And so I take pictures and then I upload them to OneDrive, and then sometimes by the time I get back to the office, Alana has put it up on all social media. So the idea is to let people know that I'm out there.
Mhm.
But today I want to talk about Ted Lasso. And Ted Lasso has made an impression on me, my coaching. A lot of my clients are saying, hey, you're coaching just like Ted Lasso. And I said, Ted, who? And so eventually I looked him up on my Apple TV. And sure enough, I'm thinking, oh, wow, this has a lot of the same style that I use in coaching. And so it's been fun now to start saying, okay, how do we harness the lessons to be learned and then apply those and I'm applying these to myself and to my clients. And so I want to find out what you all think. First of all, who knows Ted Lasso? You've seen him a little bit, you've seen him a lot.
Twice.
Right. You've seen
Trying not to
the
watch
whole
the third
series?
time. Yeah.
All three seasons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I found it and sometimes I have to convince my husband to like, if he thinks something's maybe quirky or something, he's like, eh. And so he goes to bed before me, so I watch a lot of stuff
Yeah.
after it.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, you have to watch just the first season, just
Right.
watch the first season,
First
and then I won't talk about it ever again. And then-
Yeah.
So I watched the first season and the second season, and then I was like, I immediately made him watch the first season again.
And was he hooked?
Mhm.
Did he end up seeing the?
Oh, yeah, and
Okay,
he really liked it too,
Yeah.
but he just takes some convincing.
right.
Because also Schitt's Creek is a very similar feel to it, and he would hear me like dying laughing, and he was like, "What are you watching?" And then he's like, "This looks dumb." And then
Uh.
again, I was like, "You have to watch the first season, and then you can."
Right.
And he watched all 5
I see. Wow. Okay.
seasons.
Well, that's great. So if you had to describe, if you've seen Ted Lasso more than
More than number.
anybody,
The rest of the next one.
yeah.
I don't know if I'm the
So-
expert,
So,
but.
what would you say? Who is Ted Lasso?
It's funny because I grew up around a lot of Ted Lassos. He's very Midwestern.
Mm,
Like good old boy is not the right word, but just good-hearted. Simple is also what's coming to mind, but that's not what I'm like. I don't mean like simple-minded, just very simple, not that you think he's not that complex of a person when at first you get into the show. He just has this kind of Ned Flanders, Oakley dokley like way of doing everything, but then you kind of realize there's so much thought behind it, and there is a strategy and a system and a process behind what he's doing, but also building people up and helping people recognize their flaws, but not in a way that is cruel or demeaning. So it's just really I think a heartwarming
mm,
approach
Yeah,
to dealing with people.
well described too. Thank you. Anybody have anything else to add about Ted Lasso? So Robert got me this book because I mentioned it earlier, and so I've enjoyed going through and seeing some of the particulars about some of the different scenes and who I'm not so concerned with who the actors are. I'm more concerned about what the message is.
I can say a little bit about the character.
yes.
So yeah, he coaches a soccer team or football is, what they call it there. Yeah. Anyway, so he's a coach and he's like endlessly optimistic, like all the odds could be stacked against him. And he's like, what are we gonna do? Which is actually similar to Doug.
Uh-huh.
I'm now seeing in real life even more and more. But it's like no matter how dire, chaotic, or unlikely they are to win games, he's just gonna take it with gusto, and he builds people up, and even when people mess up, he's very forgiving. You said some of these things, but he's persevering and inspiring every day. So
Right.
yeah, and he recognizes the strength in, oh, come on.
What? Am I becoming more and more like? Like that, it's sort of a. Okay, sorry.
That's funny.
I think you have before.
That needs to go on social media. Holding the magazine.
Yeah, Halloween last year was great, because I came to Ted Lasso. So I'm looking at what are the lessons learned, trying to boil it down, and if you do a chat GPT T. Yeah, GPT. Yeah, it'll show you the 10 top and which is cute. Um, but I found 5 that really I found were the essence of it, and positivity is the number one, and so many other fit into positivity. So here are the 5 that I thought were applicable, and I'll give you the 5. Then I'm gonna give you some examples of the 5, and then I would like to start relating it to real life. Some of the 5 that I've seen, and I'd love for you to stay as we're going through this, be thinking, oh, what are some of the examples of these 5 lessons that are in Ted Lasso that you've actually seen in your world? And I think it then becomes more real. I mean, because Ted Lasso obviously is fiction, maybe. So unless we can relate it to the real world, it's hard to really get a handle on. So here are the 5 that I saw. Number 1 is positivity. Positivity with all others, positivity to self, positivity all the time. And it's remarkable, as Alana was saying, even when there's adversity, you still come across as positive. And just the other day, somebody was asking me, as we're going through some trials and tribulations, say, okay, so how is it that you can stay so positive through when you're having all these struggles coming up? And I was saying, well, I have a choice. I could be positive or I could be negative. Which would I choose? Positive sounds so much more fun to me than being negative, regardless of the external world. And so positivity, and that's Ted Lasso, is positive no matter what.
And also you can flip over your agenda sheet and there's the different sections.
Very
there.
good, Alana, very good.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll distract you, but that way if you want to add anything that as he's saying it.
So would you say that, because I can't help but think, there's certain people that are just negative by nature,
Yes,
no matter what.
right.
I actually had a couple of them salespeople that I worked with, and I literally just wanted to blow my brains out every day.
Yeah.
Just shut up and do the job. Wow, I'm so hungry. I'm so tired. And I used to say to them, I got a solution for that. You're so tired, go to bed earlier. Anyway, do you think that that's part of the environment that they grow up in? That it's a positive environment, starts there, it's part of their behavior.
Yeah.
It's not something that they choose to do.
Is it nature or nurture is sort of what I heard you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I'm often asked by by CEOs to say, okay, my kid, he's tiresome and he's tired all the time, or whatever is the concept. And so the question is it nature or nurture? I'm finding that in most cases it's nurture. Most of the kids who are going through this, and sometimes the kids are 65, 70 years old.
Adults.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and often it's the kids say, hey, could you go coach dad too? So, so a lot of it goes up upstairs too. So the concept is it nature or nurture? I think in most cases it is nurture. It is something that we actually have control over, because I've seen people who are one direct way where they're in bed all the time and or just performing a low productivity, and you find that spark and then they turn it on. And so that's sort of the concept, and that's actually an item number 3. Let's
Can
make
I
sure.
say something
Yes,
to that?
sure.
So I started coaching this year is mental fitness. And mental fitness is the capacity to see life's challenges from a positive rather than negative perspective. So I agree with Doug, it's a habit, it's a learned habit, because at some point in time, what you did going to the negative was there to protect you.
Mhm.
And you were just a kid, you didn't know any better about the situation, and maybe it helped you then, but then as you get older, like that is no longer protecting you.
Yeah.
So from a scientific perspective, when you go to the negative thinking, you're using the left side of your brain, which is where all of your survival protection kind of type stuff is. The right side of your brain is where your empathy and your outside of the box thinking comes from. Compassion for other people, and really that action plan of how am I going to get through this. And what's happened is you've gone to the negative so many times that you've built up those neural pathways, so that when a certain situation comes up, I come to work, I instantly am just going to complain about everything because it's what I've always done.
Mhm.
So until you start building better mental habits, you continue to go into that negative path until you slow things down in your brain and realize that you're doing it.
Yeah.
You can't build the new neural pathways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you have triggers, so certain things
Mhm.
trigger, like going to work. Or one person complains, and then, okay, I've got to top that with my complaint, which is gonna be even bigger.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because when one person's saboteurs come out and show themselves, then it can trigger another person's saboteur. It's very contagious.
Mhm.
But in the same regard, if you're operating from the right side of your brain and you're talking to people from that perspective, that's also very contagious. So you can bring that on in people too.
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny, because I was thinking like with, like in a good marriage situation, you can start to go down those self-saboteuring ways, and then the other person like helps to turn you and remind you and help you change your choice.
Yeah.
Just, and it's like like you were saying with your coaching, it's sometimes the way that people communicate in marriages and relationships is, played out again in the workplace, like you're doing business marriage counseling or whatever. And you've referred to it that way also.
Choosing your mate, by the way, I think is the most important decision you'll ever make in your life.
No pressure.
Hardest
Yeah.
thing I've ever done in my lifetime, that's why.
Yeah.
Well, that raising kids and being an entrepreneur, hey, I guess some of us fall in all those three.
Yeah, so, but yeah, so if you find someone who can create that positivity in you, wow, then, now you've captured something, and often it is just somebody reminding you, hey, let's decide to be positive here. And what you saw with Ted Lasso is that people eventually started to get it.
Yeah, and as you said that too, I like what you said to add to that, that's where I came from as a therapist and training. I thought, man, everybody's so down and down. So I thought, geez, it's nice outside, the weather's good, I'm gonna go for a walk, and
Uh-huh.
everybody's so focused on the client they just had and just, oh my gosh, their life is over. I thought, I didn't think that much into it though. Like, am I not compassionate and caring? Maybe I'm missing something, right? So for the longest time though, I realized I was different than a lot of my peers in that
Yeah.
sense, where they'd be so focused on, I call it descriptive language, all the things they saw come up to now, right? And I like to look at generative language, right side brain, which is like, what can we create? What can we start to build? What's something that we can start to step into? I was listening to a good book called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And he's like, gratitude in the morning, this is why it works. And people go, that can't be that easy. I go, you're gonna try it for 30 days, once a day, here's your prescription. Tell me it's not gonna work. It's like, if I shift my mindset, right?
It's thinking
And
from the right side of your brain when
so-
you're in gratitude.
Generative.
Generative language is like, I generate something new, like I'm trying to start this lawnmower with my neighbor, yet our old neighbor, we were FaceTime, it's like, I can't start this damn lawnmower, right? So I'm generating something new versus just being stuck in data. This is like when companies get stuck in data and trends, and I go, it's all wonderful looking at the past,
Mhm.
except for it only matters if I do something with it proactively to actually like paint with, like, I guess what it's called, paint like an artist. Just like, I can look at data and go, wonderful, it's a story of what, right? Versus here's what's happened up to now. And I like what you said, options. I can be either negative or positive.
Mhm.
Most people don't have that awareness.
Right.
So that was a good example, like what you're saying, it's like to see that, show people that there's options. And playing in a whole nother game in the sense of like, oh, but the past has led this. When I work with married couples, I go, we're not gonna talk about your past fights. We're gonna say, hey, what do you want to build moving forward though?
Yeah.
Right.
Now, if you want to separate and divorce, okay, well then how are we gonna make that harmonious? Do you have kids? Right? Versus like, but he said, she said, nope. It's almost like that Bob Hope when he had, if you saw that one, he's like, just stop it. And the lady
Yeah,
came, now it's like, stop it.
It's on the
Two words,
website.
stop it. It's like, pretty much,
STOP.
that's very much like it. And that's
Yes.
what positivity kind of has to stop the negative cycle of the
Sure.
brain. There's a lot of truth to that, even though we're laughing, we go, it can't be that easy. I go, well, sometimes it is.
Yeah.
And therapists tend to kind of go a little bit too much themselves into that rabbit hole. And I find myself going like Ted Lasso, I'm a little bit more of like seeing other sides to it, or it might almost look like I'm not like thinking deep enough about their situation. I'm not stuck on the past story
Right.
narrative that they keep telling themselves. So that's that narrative they drag. Well, I've always been unhappy. I go, you want to stay that way? Well, no. It's like, well, what do you want to do to start?
Well, it's like
You said
mindfulness
something-
too, is just like what's right in front of you, what's
That's it.
directly, like with the walk or.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's why I do that. I'm having a crappy day, horrible day, and I go for a walk and I go, how many people do you see when you're hiking? They say happy trails, and I go, oh, it's a crappy day, right? It's hard for the brain to be grateful
Mhm.
and complain at the same time. Try it. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Right? I was on a walk in the Bay Area with 2 cops last month. And because I flew out there and we are doing some work and they're telling me about the stuff that's going on, and they're saying happy trail, hey, good morning, good day. Hi. I'm thinking, do you guys do that in your neighborhood when you go put on a uniform and 2 as cops? I go, well, no, it's that. I'm like, why can't you?
Mhm.
What's the
Right.
difference between going for a walk and serving in your community with the
Yeah.
badge on?
Wow.
Well,
Shit,
it's
a big
different
change.
in setting, you know, so all that,
Wow.
it's like, doesn't have to be. It's shifting how I see things, right? So that's why I love to take people outside and go, isn't this beautiful? What would it be like if you took that back into your space?
Yeah.
With your team, with your staff,
Because it's still here.
Still
Believe it
there.
or not.
Yeah.
but it's good for them to see what it looks like, right? As you know, as you guys doing your work, and I think that's the big part, sometimes getting them to taste it
Mhm.
and helping on the awareness pieces where coaching comes in. It's like, let's look at the game film of your life over the last couple of weeks. You know, what worked well and what maybe didn't, like, that's okay to
Right.
dip into all those things. I think sometimes it's helping them remember, like you said, what's behind it. It goes right back into the gold Buddha, right? They got, some of them have so much clay, like you said, which the nurture. Someone's got so much clay, it's like,
Yeah.
I spent a little bit of time with an employee, they're like, all of a sudden they light up. I'm like, what's different? I'm not your boss. Oh, you're an outsider, you listen to me. I'm like, different just because I see them differently
Mhm.
versus somebody that worked with them and go, oh, you know, all my story. And so there's some of those elements I think come
Yeah.
up.
So this is a positivity lesson. Great comment from all of you on that. The second one I have is care about each team member, each and every team member. And I think that really goes back into this nature versus nurture. And you say, even if you have a Jamie Tart, who is the arrogant, know-it-all,
Which one is
athlete.
that? Can you point?
He's the star player.
He's the cutie.
He's the one down here.
Okay, okay.
Okay, and he's a star. I mean,
He's
he's
a diva.
he's on the
He's
everybody,
actually the best player on the team.
best player on the team. Everybody
But-
loves him, and the media loves him. But he's just so arrogant. He's not a team player.
Mhm.
And so, how does Ted Lasso treat Jamie Tart? And he first of all, he treats him with compassion, knowing that he's got some real issues, and because he's not able to get into the team spirit. And so, and even to the point of saying, well, we're gonna have to have him sit on the bench. And
That's humility.
and you can imagine how the stands reacted to Ted Lasso. You're benching.
Yeah,
James?
because I think the prior philosophy was just get the ball to him.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
You know,
That's right.
it was like.
Yeah.
So
And
he
if you
just-
didn't
it
send
was-
it to him, Jamie Tart was angry and upset. And, oh man, I was
right, like if someone missed, he would be like, but if you just got it to me,
yes, right.
Okay,
That's right.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was like, good looking and the media loved him and he was, modeling and doing all this
Right.
other. So he had a lot to overcome.
That's right. Yes, that's right. But Ted Lasso didn't leave him behind. He cared about him, took care of him, even when things were not in Ted Lasso or the Richmond Hounds way. I mean, eventually Jamie, spoiler alert, Jamie goes to another team and Ted Lasso doesn't denigrate him for that, but actually lifts him up and sends him messages about, okay, you're okay, and still has a part in his heart. Ted Lasso still has a part in his heart for a guy who's even turned the enemy. And this is a recurring theme throughout this, is that even when somebody is not even becomes the enemy, so to speak, and tries to destroy what you're putting together, you still don't go negative on it. And I think that's a great lesson for us all, is that every person becomes somebody that when you see somebody, a grocery teller, how do you lift up that person? You see somebody who's cutting you off in traffic. Do you flip them a gesture, or do you try to take care of them? Do you protect them?
Oh, well, I guess you're in a hurry.
Yes, you're in a hurry. That's right. So how do I protect you? Maybe I'm going to pull back, or you see someone who's really eager. Okay, let me let you go.
Get around.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun to pull off and do all kinds of things like that to hurt them, but that's not the Ted Lasso way. Ted Lasso way is protect everybody.
It's a good example of that. In sports here in the United States would be Pete Carroll of the Seahawks. He very much
Tell me about
coaches like that. If you guys ever follow him, he does a lot of mindset leadership work with Michael Gervais, sports psychologist, and some others. He's always been huge on staying positive, so much so the media can't stand it because they want to get stuff out of him. They want to get, hey, tell me how frustrated. When they had Earl Thomas a few years ago flipping the bird when he was getting off the field, not because of the relationship, because of the business transaction. He knows he's losing millions of dollars by breaking his ankle. Right. So he flips the bird to the sidelines, and Pete Carroll just calm and collective and cool and only said good things about him in the interviews. And then years later, he comes back to the team and he goes, you're the best coach I ever had, because then he had troubles after that in his next team. They kicked him off the Baltimore Ravens.
Right.
He comes back to that point where it was, I really appreciate your coaching. At the time, it was like he had to really Pete Carroll go, how could you take that national TV? Somebody's flipping you off, and that would be hard. But he really lives that out of he believes in pouring that into his players,
Right.
Even with the ones that when the business transaction versus the relationship, and that gets in there, it's really can get ugly. And it's neat to see coaches carry that out in real life, like Ted Lasso. Pete Carroll's very much that way.
Yeah.
When you're talking about company culture too,
Yes.
like when the leader is coming from that perspective, everybody's gonna feel the love,
Yeah.
want to be there and want to contribute to it. I think that's where a lot of companies really struggle, is they are so focused on the numbers or micromanaging everything, having control so that it's perfect, and they forget that the people that are working for them are other human beings. And if they showed empathy and love more often, it would come back to them tenfold.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know any other real life coaches?
I do happen to know another real life coach. There's a coach called Doug Peterson. Anybody heard of Doug Peterson? He's the Jacksonville Jaguar coach. And some of these same principles, you find the positivity, you find that he cares about each team member. There was a coach that was the Jaguars before Coach Peterson. Urban Meyer. Yeah, and Urban Meyer, what did he do? He kicked the kicker.
Right.
Yeah.
Beat him down.
Yeah, and if you made a mistake, man, you were in trouble. And the whole team was operating under fear.
Yeah.
All left side,
That was a
no
huge
right side.
mistake.
Yeah, that's right. Doug Peterson, and so Doug Peterson comes in and he starts protecting everybody. And he starts saying, hey, no, okay, use your head, use your heart. You can do this. I believe in you. I believe in you, which then comes to the third lesson, which is you believe in the team, you believe in the self, and you believe in miracles. And the more that you start saying, okay, we do have a golden Buddha under here, we're gonna start chipping away, we're gonna start making you all that you can be, because we believe that you can do it. And so, when you're working with a team, and you start to, as a coach, and you start saying, okay, what do we believe in? What are our core values? What's our why? What's our hedgehog? If you're familiar with Good to Great, or BHAG, Built to Last. All these, almost every book that you read, Michael Gerber, The E-Myth, talks about the chief aim. Start with Why is Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
So just about every one of these gurus is going to be talking about, what is it that you believe in? And that was somewhat that was the big concept here is you put up believe and you start saying, okay, what is it that we believe in? And if you can start figuring that out, once you figure that out, then life gets really simple. So it doesn't matter if you're in Doug Peterson's game with against the Chargers, Jacksonville Jaguars against the Chargers, will take down 27-0, 4 picks, when a pick is
Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions, right? That first
4
half.
interceptions, and you would think that he would be down. You think that the whole team would be down, devastated. But no, with Doug Peterson on the sideline saying, no, here we go. Let's go. Everybody, focus. And it was amazing. Trevor Lawrence goes back in after 27 wins, 27-0. And this is a few minutes before the end of the half. And he says, we're not going to get 27 points on this next play, but we can move the ball. And then another player says, all right, we got your back. We got your back, bro. And you listen to these, to the players on the side when they were 27-0, and none of them were saying, oh God, the world's falling apart. Every one of them was saying, no, we got this. We got this. If they can score 27 points in less than 2 halves, less than 2 quarters, we can do the same thing in the end. And by golly, they did.
That's the philosophy.
Yeah.
Doug was a coach before Urban Meyer,
Yes.
and I get frustrated with him in his after game press conferences. On the other there's a point where you're caring about the team member, you're protecting them, they're this, they're that. But I can tell you that just through everything that I observed with that team, and I'm a huge football fan for years and years, in a coach making excuses for the lack of preparation, the lack of devotion to your skill, those types of things. That particular coach would always make excuses. Oh, well, I guess we'll try to get better again next week. And it would drive me crazy versus Peterson, who I'm sure haven't been in the locker room, but I'm sure when it comes time to him noticing someone's not holding their end of the bargain up, he's probably going to call him on the carpet.
Sure.
But you need to do that. Otherwise, the rest of the team says, well, I can be average.
Yeah.
That
He's
too,
accepting that.
And the faith put in there, that what got me the most from Doug Peterson, this is why I think they're going to continue to be a good team, is what you're saying. But also, most coaches after 4 picks would say, hey, we're going to take it easy. You're going to give it to the running back for a while. Or they would have put in another player.
Sure.
The fact that he still trusts him and said, do 4 picks, go back out there and gunsling it
We
again.
got those out
They're
of
like,
the way.
no, don't throw it.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
It's like
We got those out of
that
the way.
faith part in it, Doug, I think as players
Yeah.
comes to miracles too. I
Yeah.
think you have to have that faith in people.
Yeah. I was reading this book called Out of Time. Bob Simpson. And he tells a story about a dad, I think it was your dad maybe, who worked at IBM. And,
No, but yeah, go ahead.
and
That was Daniel,
Daniel's dad.
Daniel's dad.
Okay, so Daniel's dad, it really didn't say who was.
Yeah,
Okay,
we wrote
All right.
alternating.
Okay.
chapters.
so Daniel's dad, he's the other co-author of the book. And so IBM, the guy made a $185 million mistake. Something, it was a huge mistake,
Mm.
millions of dollars
Yeah.
mistake. And so then he was, his manager was asked, aren't you gonna, replace him or, take him off or, fire him? And he says, no, I just spent $850 million.
Gotta get that back.
Yeah, we gotta earn that back. That's right. That's right. So, and I think that's one of the things that you'll find, is that, when you're investing in the players, getting them to believe. And then when they did come back and they started scoring and one time Trevor Lawrence came back, when they were close to the end of the game. And Trevor Lawrence, I think, had just dove and scored for a 2-point conversion, which
Yeah.
meant that now they had the opportunity to win. Trevor Lawrence came back to Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson taps him on the head, taps him on the heart. Now, I don't know what that actually meant because I wasn't there and I don't know what, but I would assume that that's something that he's done 100 times, saying, use your head, use your heart. I like the way you did that. And so you just anchored it.
Mhm.
This is what we believe in. This is what we believe in, is what Ted Lasso would say. As a matter of fact, even, spoiler alert, even when the sign was missing, and Ted Lasso looked up on the wall where it was supposed to be, and each player knew that even though it wasn't on the wall, they could still believe it. They could still believe it, and they did still believe it. And so that's the concept, is
But now it's on the inside.
it's on the inside,
Even if it gets torn down and torn up.
torn down and torn up.
And maybe put together later. Yes.
Another spoiler alert. For those of you who are gonna watch it, no, and it's worth it, it's worth it. I've seen that one scene, I watched it again a couple times this weekend. And it's fascinating how, the idea is you keep on, so for your clients, for instance, you keep on getting them to believe. What is it you believe? What's your why? What are your core values? All this. Now, when they're doing anything, how does that relate to the core values? Your hedgehog concept and good to great. What is it that you're doing? And now let's make sure that you believe it enough that no matter what happens, you're still going to believe. And that's the way miracles happen. And even if miracles don't happen, at least you stay positive with it. Which then brings us to number 4. And the number 4 is good humor. Good humor works best. The idea, I think, is to have fun no matter what you're doing. And if you can do that, if you can get your teams to do that, wow. Now you've got a world where even if you're Jaguars and you're down 27-0, the concept was, no, we're gonna go have fun. I've got your back, and I got your back really had several meanings. One is we got Trevor Lawrence's back, but the other thing was we have each player. If one player falls down, what do? You keep on playing. And matter of fact, you cover for that person. You're covering, your job is to make sure that you do what's right for the team. And you can't blame it on anybody else. You can say, okay, no, we've lost and it was his fault or her fault or my fault. No, we're just gonna keep on going. We're gonna make this thing work, and we're gonna have some fun with what we're doing. Anybody know the movie Jerry Maguire? And Jerry Maguire in that movie, you play with your, what was it? You play with your heart. What did he say? Do you, when he was talking to Rod, Jerry was saying, you're a paycheck player. If you're a paycheck player, you're not playing for the fun. He said, and when you're a kid playing football, were you doing it for fun, or were you, or was it, or was it business back then? Well, it was for fun. And so, get back to that. Get back to that. And if we can get our teams to have fun, wow, now we've got something that's going to carry itself. And and I think what you're talking about with chipping away the clay, finding the golden Buddha, when you have that belief system, you're having fun, it's so much easier to chip away. And the final one is to keep perspective. Don't put the game before the dame. Anybody remember how this one came out? Do you want to say?
I don't know, if I was like, I don't know if I remember that without reading what you,
Okay,
but
it had to do with Beard and
okay.
his playing chess with his girlfriend.
Oh, yeah, and then they would usually end up breaking up over a chess
Right.
game.
That's right, because, because the game became more important than the dame. I mean, and which to me means losing perspective.
Yeah,
And often we'll find this with individual players on a team, and I'm talking like a business team. You'll have, for instance, CEO and a child, a 35-year-old child, and the 35-year-old child says, "Oh, I'm getting criticized again. Here it comes again," and losing perspective of, oh, we're trying to make this a great team, a great company, but instead the child is saying, "Oh, I'm getting criticized again, and here we go." And the same with the father. The father saying, "I've got to make this child behave," and all the head trash comes in. Losing perspective. And so what we're trying to do is change it all. So now we're keeping the perspective of what are we trying to accomplish here? What do we believe in?
I think that's also the whole letting go of being right, whoever's
Yes.
right. In an
That's right.
argument.
Yes, there was a Savage, Mike Savage, I think was his name. He was in probably back in the 1950s and 60s. He was an insurance sales guy. So he taught a lot of people about how to have the right attitude. And he always said, marriage is the simplest game in town. Just be wrong so others can be right. Because it's keeping the perspective of, okay, the marriage, the relationship is more important than winning this argument. And if we can remember that in running our businesses, the same thing.
But it's like, and it's also we're on the same team. We're just trying to figure out how to get the dishes washed.
Yeah.
Like, not who's doing it right, better, slower,
That's
faster.
right. That's right. Yes. So if somebody all of a sudden, one of your employees makes a mistake on an invoice, you can come and you can bless them out. But that doesn't help getting the invoice
fixed.
needs to be fixed. That's right. How do we fix this? Yeah, and maybe every problem is merely a challenge, not yet converted into an opportunity. So we start saying, okay, so
Great mark, Doug.
yeah, that's right. That's Doug line. I looked it up on Google and nobody else has that.
Oh, there you go.
Good. Get to it.
I know, it's
TM.
yeah, it's actually on the mug that we have.
Okay.
It's been mugified.
Just about magnified, yeah. So the point is that okay, there are problems, but those are just challenges. And then how do we turn those into opportunities? And I think that's one of the things you find with Ted Lasso. Every chance he gets, he's changing these problems into opportunities. We're growing men. I'm thinking about this with a lot of my clients. And as managers, you're not just teaching these individuals to do their job, you're making them better men. You're taking these boys and turning them into men, because most of them are in heavy industrial where they're all men. Sometimes they're women, but usually it's these men who are just not window washers. They're window washers, but they're not just window washers. These are boys, and now we're going to teach them character. And so they're up there doing their squeegee, but they're also protecting everybody around them. They're making sure that they're protecting their coworkers. They're making sure that they are thinking what's the best thing for the company. PSS, Position Sales and Services, is one of the, I love that example of how Position Sales and Service, when it got started in 1983, from 5 guys who've just gotten fired. So they joined this, they pulled it together and say, okay, we're going to start delivering position supplies.
And they got bought by
Yes, and then eventually McKinsey.
McKenzie.
Yes. So
McKesson.
huh?
McKesson.
McKesson,
Yeah.
McKesson, right, that's right, not McKinsey, McKesson. And you can see the name on the side of the building.
I can.
Yes. And so Pat Kelly, who was the guy who was the chairman, he was the CEO. And so all of a sudden he came up with all these concepts. It was probably 5 years into it. So it would have been made in 1988-ish. And they had grown into 5 different locations, really wanted to move faster, but banks weren't coming along. They had all kinds of problems. They trying to get New Orleans to join them. There's a physician supply company in New Orleans. So he went to the guy who owned it and said, hey, do you want to join us? Not too interested. So he's coming back and lamenting and talking to a consultant. The consultant says, so, okay, so you got all these problems. What's your mission? And Pat Kelly looks up on the wall to read the mission. And it was a long mission with all these superlatives. We're going to be the best. And okay, so if he didn't have it in his heart to be able to say it, how could he get his whole team to do it? So he said, well, so what do you really want to do? Well, really, Mr. Consultant, I really want this company to become the first national physician supply company. Meaning that we'll be in every state in the contiguous United States, 48 states. On one day, we'll be delivering a product to a physician in every state. Wow. And that then became the mission. And everybody knew the mission. Everybody became excited by it. Everybody believed in it. Matter of fact, Pat Kelly would walk around with $2 bills in his coat pocket. And he'd say, hey, truck driver, because most of these, it was a whole company of truck drivers. And these truck drivers were 18 to 24-year-olds, mostly. Many of them just out of college, and the kid's father would say, hey, Pat, could you give my kid a job? And he said, well, sure, I'll talk to him if he can be inspired. And so he'd talk to him, and they would say, oh, the kid would get excited and say, oh yeah, become the first national physician supply company. Yeah, good. I'm excited about that. Well, so Pat Kelly would walk around $2 bills in his coat pocket, and he'd say, so what's our mission? And the kid would say, I don't know. Well, that was the wrong answer. But if he said, become the first national physician supply company, out would come a $2 bill, snap it and give it to him and say, okay, good answer. And he'd go to another kid and he'd say, so who's the CEO here? Well, you are, Mr. Kelly. Wrong answer. Get the right answer. So come back the next time. So kid, who's the CEO? Well, Mr. Kelly, I am the CEO when I'm in front of the client, because we need to make decisions. We're making fast decisions. I'm going to decide what's the best thing for the company and for my client. Wow. Okay. $2 bill. And so anybody just have a question for Pat Kelly as he's walking around, they'd get a $2 bill. So the idea was to create excitement, excitement, excitement. Every time they get a new state, they'd have throw a picnic. And everybody would come and so when they finally had every state, and they were the first national physician supply company. When they did, they threw this great $250,000 picnic. Everybody flew in and celebrated. Very important. Now, notice that it wasn't that we're going to make a dollar amount or we're going to be profitable. Simon Sinek says dollars, profit, those are that's secondary, that's a result. And so it's really important to get your people, when you're getting them to believe in something, it's not just the dollars. Unfortunately, PSS came along and said, okay, now we're just going to be a $2 billion company, because they were already reached the first goal. What's the second goal? Become a $2 billion company. And the excitement diminished because they no longer had that excitement of, okay, here's what we're going, here's what we're all about. It's just putting money in somebody's pocket. I'll tell another story about PSS. My wife's a jazz singer, was a jazz singer, and so I was always interested in how can you make money in a band. Heidi, you know about this. And so we were at one of my clients was having a birthday party for her husband. And they had a band. They're not my wife, but so during the break, I went up to the drummer and said, hey, want to find out, nice drumming. How do you do you make a living at this? Oh, no, I can't make a living at this. Where do you work? Oh, I had a company called PSS. PSS. As suddenly I'm excited, and I say, oh, so how long have you been there? 15 years. And oh, so you knew Pat Kelly? Oh my God, Pat Kelly. He was very exciting, to have him around. I said, did you ever get a $2 bill? $2 bills. I got $2 bills every time I saw him because I'd ask him a question and I would say, I'd give him the mission. We've become the first national physician supply company. And I'm the CEO, and he's repeating back all these things that I'd heard from Pat Kelly. Pat Kelly I knew from the First Coast Venture Capital Group, when he'd give talks and about what he was doing. So then I said, so what's it like now at PSS? Well, he said, well, now PSS, back then I used to pack my own box every night for my delivery the next day. And I knew that my box was perfect. That's exactly what the physician ordered. And I was going to give him exactly what he ordered. Now, somebody else packs my box. It's always wrong. And I don't care.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? And no longer had the belief. So the belief can come and the belief can go. And so the concept is, you gotta keep positivity, care about each team member, believe in it, believe in miracles, have good humor, have fun, and keep your perspective all the time. And I think you do that time and time again with your teams. And that's when I think you find success. Again and again and again, it's repetitive. I mean, the Jaguars are predicting, because of the coach, because of the attitude.
Now they got the pieces in place.
Now they got to please. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You didn't have that for a while.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And there's
Because we moved to Florida, family.
So who's your favorite team now?
Huh?
Who is your favorite?
Well,
Oh,
the Seahawks
my
play.
team's
Well,
back.
I'm from Washington State, so I'm naturally a Seahawks fan.
Yeah.
But Jaguars are, I said, we chose to move here, not based on job or income. I
Yeah.
just chose to move here because it's our family moved. And so it was the first place we picked as a family to move here, not based
Yeah.
on a job. So
Right,
I said, I'm rooting for the team and everything has to do with Jacksonville because we picked it
yeah,
as our home.
Yeah.
And so it's gonna be our team.
It's our home.
Yeah.
yeah, right,
But
right.
but growing up, it was the Seahawks.
Oh, yeah, sure. I was from out of Chicago, so the Chicago Bulls. Bulls? Bears, right. Right. Yeah.
Basketball.
I didn't know
Yeah,
what they were yelling at the game last year. My friend gave tickets to me because he had some family that were on hospice, so he had to ditch his tickets. And he's like, I have no one else to give them to. I'm like, well, I can't go by myself. And I asked my daughter, I go, we'll go, but it's in the Raiders section. If they start getting cussing a lot of cuss words, I said, well, we'll just walk around the stadium, if it's not PG enough for us.
Right.
And so we ended up going after for the second half. That's where they came back and beat the Raiders.
Oh,
But I didn't know people were yelling, like they were yelling Duval. I didn't know the heck that meant. I'm like, what's that? I Google it because I don't want to look like an idiot. Well, how original is that? Came up with this,
Yeah.
So,
Right, that's right.
It's well famous.
but I didn't know what it was. People were yelling, falling on my phone, go with it. And then I just searched it, like, what does that mean?
I'm new here.
There are a lot of examples, and we talked about some of them, that I've seen with my clients, and I'm trying to think of whether it, in the next 6 minutes, if there's, all humans struggle, and so how do we stay positive? And I'm thinking that, we all have examples of how we've had to stay positive with our clients. And I think, what I'd like to hear from you is some, just very briefly, do you have an example of a time when you've had to apply one of these 5?
I have a non-client one, but I want to mention it anyway.
Yes.
So I worked at Starbucks like 15 years ago, and I remember their mission still. And it was to be the premier purveyor of the finest coffee in the world.
Wow.
And it gave me a lot of pride and like
Right,
why I was there.
that's right, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, along the lines of positivity, I had a client very early on, pretty rough individual by nature. Can't change that.
Mhm.
But he would start off the week, Monday morning, with basically belittling, telling them how bad they were, just a lot of pressure. And I came in as all this had been going on for a while. And I found out that this was going on. And I said to him, to myself, putting myself in that situation, how happy would I want to be to go to work on Monday morning?
Mhm.
I went through that personally myself, but I said, you just want to do anything but
Yeah.
that. But this
Yeah.
is your job and you gotta go. I finally went to the owner and I said, all due respect, you can fire me right now because it's open-ended,
Right,
but you hired me to do a job. I said, I'm gonna ask you to do one thing, stay the hell away from the salespeople,
Mhm.
because you're not doing anybody any good.
Mhm.
You're beating them down. Ended up that it was so bad that they were fabricating quotes that we found out after one of them left.
Mm.
And went out to customers and said, hey, we're calling to follow up on this quote that Joe, who's not with us anymore, put together. And they go, what quote? You never quoted me. Because the requirement for the owner was you had to have so many quotes issued per week. And if you didn't,
Yeah.
you were stupid, you were bad.
Right.
So what are they gonna do?
Made it up.
Make it up.
Yeah.
How good was that? And how stupid did we look when we
Mhm.
went out? So I'm the area of positivity. I tell them, stay the hell away from your.
Right.
It's only you, your wife and me, and
Yeah.
those two, that's it. So.
That's
Sometimes that's good though. You said positivity doesn't always look Pollyanna though, right? So I mean, it's like George
Right.
Patton. I was watching stuff on General Patton. He says, we're gonna get those sons of bitches. And it's like, but he's like, but everyone's on board, like, yeah, because he's in the battle with them. And there's a
Mhm.
positivity to allowing somebody to be themselves if it's bringing the team together. I think
Correct. But
there's those elements that you're not gonna be like, make you smile. I don't want to smile. It's like sometimes it's finding who someone is and leaving that out too. Like but you did it in a good way there, even though it wasn't like positive in the sense maybe like Ted Lasso way, but it was a good impact on the sales team. They're probably thankful that they get to maybe.
Well, that's
breathe a little
caring
bit.
about every member of the
Uh-huh.
team. So that's being
Yeah.
protected.
I mean,
That's
like,
it.
often their
Right,
shoes is
right.
like, oh, hell no,
Yeah.
you gotta get out of there.
it.
One of them did. One of them's cool. Yeah.
Well, part of the reason my business is straightforward solutions is because I've just learned that I'm not a sugarcoater.
Mhm.
So I'm going to be positive with you, but it's going to be very straightforward. And not, to the point.
Uh-huh.
But I also found that it worked well when I did a lot of organizing with clients and, someone needed to be straightforward and be like, this is literally too much stuff. So it doesn't matter how many bins we buy, like, it's not going to fit. And then there was they were like, oh, okay. But like a good example I had a client who, she was getting transferred for her job. It was a good government job. Her house was getting foreclosed on. It was like a hoarding situation. And it got to the point where the moving truck was coming in like 10 days. We started post-it noting what was getting on the truck and what was being left behind. And it was a very tragic story. Her husband had passed away, all these, horrible things that happened. But then I realized after talking that it all happened 10 years ago. So she was living in this cycle of talk and all this oh poor me stuff for 10 years. And I had to kind of turn it around and I understand maybe some of these family heirlooms and things like this are going to have to be left behind. But how many times have people wanted to burn their life to the ground and start over again? I was like, you're actually getting that chance.
Mhm.
And if
Yeah.
you don't take that chance, your other option is homelessness. So
Right.
burn it all to the ground, take only what you want, go start a new life and
Yeah.
get out of here.
Makes it
And
work
after
better.
we kind of did that, she had a much better attitude about,
Uh-huh.
and the beauty of it too was the house is getting foreclosed on. So it wasn't like we got to get this crap out of here. We just got to decide what's going with it.
Right, right.
It's somebody else's problem. after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So
Speaking of burning to the ground, when your house burned down,
Yes.
what was your perspective then? Did you have that whole, this is an opportunity, or how?
Yeah, it was an opportunity, so we, had residents now in the La Quinta Inn. And the next day I had a Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce meeting, downtown council. And so this was in 2001. So I went to April 19th. So this would have been April 20th, 2001. I remember the day well. So I go to this meeting of about 20 of us on the board. And so we're talking about all the things we're going to do with the board and everything like that. It's all wonderful. And then I say, oh, by the way, if anybody's trying to communicate with me, for about 10 days, I'm going to have a little bit of a problem because my computer got burned up in the fire we had at our house. And and I'm living over La Quinta Inn now. And they're saying, what? The beautiful thing is they gave me a housewarming party, and it was lovely thing. The idea was, how to be positive. One of the things was for me to start thinking, how do I present this in a positive way? And so I started to say, there's two things I learned from this fire. One is that people are important, and my people got out of the house in time. That's important. The second thing is that people are important, and look at all the people that have come out to help us and help us get back on our feet. And all the stuff that we lost, that's not important. And so, when you start thinking about in a positive way, it just starts to change everything. And
The
it
world
starts to
did not
become.
come to an end, but that
Absolutely.
day it
That's
probably
right.
felt pretty
But-
close. But eventually you say, okay,
Yeah,
I can
it's
get through
interesting.
this.
It's a nature and nurture. I mean, so at a certain point you start thinking, okay, we do have a golden Buddha here. I'm going to use that all the time. And we're going to start chipping away. And if you can the sooner you can realize that, the sooner you can say, no matter what the adversity is, you start saying, okay, how do we turn this into something that's going to be inspirational, that's going to be that's gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay with this.
Yeah.
And once you come up with that, life gets better.
Mhm.
Well, I see life is better and we're at 1:30 mark. So thank you all for coming. I would suggest that you go out for this rest of this month and go forth and be Ted Lasso.